This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast.
Welcome to Finish Lines and Milestones, a podcast that celebrates the everyday runner. I'm your host, Allie Bretnacher. Whether you're a seasoned marathoner, half marathoner, ultra marathoner, prefer shorter distances, or just getting started, if you run, you are a runner, and every runner has a story. Join me each week as I share these stories, and we cross finish lines and celebrate milestones together. This podcast is brought to you by Athlete Bouquets. Celebrate the finish lines and milestones of the people you love by visiting athletebouquets.com. Use code PODCAST for 10% off your order. Hello and welcome to episode 90. Happy New Year. I'm still saying that. Perhaps you didn't catch last week's episode for the first episode of the year, so now I've wished you a Happy New Year. I am in the midst of attempting to set goals for the year, really just looking out and planning what races I'm going to run, what races I want to be a part of for my business Athlete Bouquets, also planning and scheduling for this podcast and some exciting things that I will hopefully be doing in collaboration with Lindsay Hine and the Sandy Boy Productions podcast network. I bought this, it's called the Big Ass Calendar, and now that I've said it out loud, you'll get an ad for it, I'm sure. But it's from Jesse Itzler or however the heck you say his last name. He is an ultra runner, an entrepreneur married to Sarah Blakely from Spanx. Anyway, I was a sucker for it, even though I probably could have made it myself. But it's this big laminated calendar that you can see on my Instagram. I'll share what it looks like, but it's just huge, and you can see the entire year at once. And so it's getting me really excited about just planning my year, trying to kind of level set and then get going, get after it. So I really want to do a full marathon in the fall, eyeing the Marine Corps Marathon. It is their 50th celebration, noodling on that, but I hope that your year is off to a good start so far. This week's episode I recorded actually before the holidays with my friend Callie, and she inspired me to finish my Ragnar Road Race Michigan recap, which, in case you didn't know, I did my first Ragnar, which is a relay race we'll talk more about here in this episode, but did it in September. So now we're, in January, and I finally finished my recap. So it is on the blog and at athletebouquets.com. You can find it there. I'll link it in the show notes, but we did talk a lot about that race here, and I felt like it was the inspiration I needed to finish that up and get it out there because I did write a lot about this race. So go check that out if you're at all interested in doing one of those in the future, or if you just want to hear some of our stories from an awesome weekend. Callie and I have known each other for quite a while, and I just love her. So I know that you'll enjoy this episode. Callie also is, your traditional everyday runner. She doesn't take it that seriously. And I think that a lot of us who are probably listening to this podcast need that reminder every now and again. I know that I do. So please enjoy this fun conversation with my friend Callie. Callie Bonnell.
Callie Jane Bonnell.
Je Bonnell, everybody. She's here. It's her first in-person podcast. First running podcast, I would assume.
Yes.
The way she's looking at me right now. Yes.
Yes.
So I want to start off talking about Ragnar just because I did write a full recap, okay? Mm-hmm. And I had all the pictures in it in my notes app on my iPhone. Mm-hmm. And then when I went to copy and paste it into my website, whatever, all the pictures didn't copy. So now, in order to finish, I have to go back and put all the pictures in. And so so you're my Ragnar recap, I think, for the time being.
Great.
So Callie and I have known each other for how long?
I don't know, maybe a decade.
Maybe a decade. Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
And I roped her into joining my Ragnar team. And we
Accurate.
did. Accurate. I was like, hey, I can't remember. Did I reach out to you?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Well, no, I saw you in person, and you were like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You should totally. And then I was like, I guess that's maybe a good place to start about whether I'm a runner, which is debatable.
Shut up. You're a
but
runner.
I am a yes person. So whether it's the Ragnar or it's whatever else you might dream up, I'm a pretty good person to ask to do just about anything because I like new experiences and I like saying yes to stuff. So kind of roped me in.
Yeah.
Willingly.
So you said yes.
I did.
And you were in my van.
Yes.
Your van one.
Yes.
Sandy.
Yeah. It was nice that they came with the name.
Yeah, so we rented these big ass, 15 passenger vans, and ours, when we get there, we were trying to name our van before then, and we get there and it says Sandy on the side.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. So you did it.
I did. And it was such a cool experience. Like, I'm so glad that I said yes to it. I don't know that I would organize a team myself, but I enjoyed participating. And I kind of trained, like, partially.
Yeah, you ran some.
Yeah.
And then you did it.
Yeah.
And you crushed it. You did way better than you thought you were going to. Admit it.
The first 2 legs were better.
Okay, the third one was rough.
The third one, there were some tears. There was a little bit of an internal monologue we had to address.
I was really worried about you. Well, okay, so I guess we should also say what the Ragnar is for people who are like, what in the world are you talking about?
Yeah, I'll take a stab. I'm sure this isn't what's on their website, but it's a roughly 200-mile relay that you can complete with up to 12 individuals. So if you're more psychotic than we are, you might do it with 6 people, but we did it with 12, thankfully.
Yeah.
And in our version, that meant that each runner ran 3 times. So I had an 8, I had a 3, an 8, and a 7 or something along those lines. And it's a relay. So when it's your turn, you go run your miles and your van leapfrogs to the next exchange point. And then when you get there, you take this wrist monitor, slap bracelet deal off, and you exchange it to the next person and they take off, and then you get in the van and you just keep repeating that until you're done. I think we had some lessons learned, things that we might do differently if we did it a second time. But in general, I think it went really well. I think we had a blast. Definitely got to know 4 new people since I already knew Allie going in. And I think that, to me, is probably the most, fulfilling part of it is, the community aspect of it. And, I've made 4 new lifelong friends, and probably, to be honest, 10, right? But you don't really see the people in the other van as much. So definitely felt like I got pretty close with my van mates, though.
Yeah, it's really pretty impossible not to at that,
Yeah.
When you're trying to sleep, when you're trying to find stuff.
Heavy emphasis on trying to sleep.
Yeah.
There's a lesson learned.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a lot of good stories in our Ragnar, too.
Yeah.
Tell the story about when we thought the van was out of battery, when we thought we left the van on all night.
Oh, yeah. I am still perplexed at how this actually came to pass.
Me too.
But we got to the exchange point where we're going to, swap with the next van, and we had, I don't know, a handful of hours to sleep. And some people were sleeping in the van, and some people were putting up a tent and sleeping in the tent. I was team van. And so the folks that are doing the tent, they get the tent out and they go to the tent area or whatever. And myself and one of our other runners, Eileen, are making, beds out of the benches of the van or whatever. And we're getting snuggled in, if you will, as much as you can in a van.
Yeah.
And lights off, time to try and get some sleep. And the door to the van opens. And we are laying down and have our eyes closed. Well, I did, at least. I assume she did. And so I just think that it's Allie or Sue or someone else from our van, logically. Who else would be opening the van? But then this man's voice comes out. And he's like, "Excuse me." And I'm like, "Oh.
I'm going to die. Now I'm getting murdered."
Right? And I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "Your headlights are on."
God.
Which is comical because it's pitch black outside. So how none of us noticed.
I don't know.
That the headlights had been left on. And when I look up, I pop up from the back seat and I look out the front window. And our headlights are very obviously illuminating the van in front of us. Presumably this man's van.
Yeah.
It's please turn these off. And I'm all laid down. I'm in my pajamas. And I'm trying to scramble around and figure out where my flashlight is. And I, at this point, I've driven the van but not used the headlights, so I really don't know where they are.
Oh, God.
And this guy can tell that I'm like struggling and like half asleep, and he's like, "Would you like me to shut them off?" And I'm like, "That'd be great." So he goes around the other side. I see them turn off because now the stuff in front of us is now dark.
Oh my God.
And so I lay back down and go to sleep. Like, obvious. So the next morning comes, and I think that I can't even remember who had been driving, but we tell the group, we're like, "Oh, you're never going to believe this." Like, but sure is so glad this guy came, because otherwise we'd have a dead battery. And then we're packing the tent back up, and we're, I don't know, brushing our teeth, getting ready for the day, whatever. And someone hops in to go turn the van on, and the van does not turn on. And we're like, "Oh, I think we jinxed ourselves." And then a couple of different people are, poking around trying to figure out what's going on. And this is the part that I'm still baffled about. Somehow, Eileen's like, "You guys, the van's not in park. That's why it won't turn on." So not only had we left the lights on, apparently whoever parked the van only got so far as to get it into neutral. So thankfully, this was a very flat area of Michigan.
Can you imagine waking up and the van is like rolling?
With the headlights on?
Oh, God.
So Eileen puts her foot on the brake, slams the van into park, and it turns right on. And we're like, "All right, great, problem solved."
Thank God. I remember I was about to text, what do they call it, race control, or what do they call it? That's not right. Race command. That's what they call it, race command. I was about to text them and be like, "Well, our van's dead. Like, what do we do?" I assume that that's happened before to somebody else. But yeah, I can't remember if it was me driving or not.
I think it's better that we don't remember.
Know. I don't remember. I do remember that I was waking up to run. I was the first runner of our van. So like when it was time to wake up and take off, like I was getting ready to go. And I was so glad that we got it figured out before I left. Because I would have been like really nervous about, which anyway, I ended up getting, that was my third leg, and I ended up getting, and Jennifer wasn't there. That was the first time that somebody in our team got to the exchange and there was nobody there.
Yeah, to be fair, she was there. She just wasn't at the, the exchange.
She forgot to grab her bib, and so she had run back to grab it, and in that time, like the tiniest window of time, I finished, and I was like, "Hello, where's my team?"
That was one of the things that I did think was comical, is the number of teams that missed the exchange. Like that one team missed their runner exchange like 3 or 4 different times. Like that same team, the runner would get there and they'd be like, "Oh, this again."
Yeah, like where is everybody? It was quite the experience.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do Zion with us in 2026?
Maybe.
I thought you were a yes person, Callie.
Well, I'm gonna need a few more details.
What details do you need?
I don't know, the date.
It's in May, early May.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, probably.
It'll be so fun.
It will.
I'm just putting that out there. And it's a team of 8 instead of 12. And it's a trail. So we did a road one. The trail ones, from what I understand, are looped. So that way you like set up camp and you're there, which I think will be even more fun because then you don't have to worry about driving directions, which actually their app was great. I think we only had a couple times where it's like you're tired, you miss like a street, but you just turn around and go where you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
I think that only happened once, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'm so glad you said yes. It was really fun.
It was really fun. It was. And I think that's one of the things about running, right? Is like just proving to yourself that you can do things that maybe you didn't know you could do, right?
Yeah.
Or getting through, like in that third leg when I had a small mental breakdown, just like persevering.
Yeah, it was so hot. And we like I don't know if we did this for the earlier legs. We started doing it at some point in the race where we would like park halfway and like cheer on our runner. And I remember crossing the street to cheer you on. And like, because I knew that you were worried about it to begin with. And then,
I mean, maybe some context. So in training for this, I developed distal tendinosis, which is basically where your heel gets tendinitis. Like your Achilles tendon and your heel gets like a tendinitis. And so I had been going to Timbo Sports Rehab, which is a physical therapy type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Jacob.
And their advice was like, well, really rest is what you need to do. And I was like, right, that's not part of the program right now. So, but by that third leg, my ankle was not feeling great. Like, it was pretty painful. But that's okay. Like, that's the thing with tendonitis. Like, once you warm it up, it actually doesn't hurt that bad until you cool it back down again. So if you can get through the first, however many uncomfortable minutes, eventually it just kind of goes like numb. But I've got that going on. And then it is roughly it's 7:45 in the morning, 8:45 in the morning. It's 15 minutes before when we're supposed to be able to stop wearing like reflective gear. Because if you ran overnight, you had to have like a vest that was reflective and a headlight and, all of these safety precautionary things, which makes great sense. So it is morning, and when I'm starting, I'm not supposed to need these things. But because there had been a ton of fog,
I remember.
They had extended
I forgot about
when
that.
you needed like all your stuff, your vest, your headlight, all of this. Well, I don't find this out until like 2 seconds before I need to start running because they've changed the rule. I have packed all of this stuff away, thinking that I'm not going to need it. So I'm now like running back to the van. Imagine a van with 6 women in it full of way too much shit that we didn't need.
Just piles of shit.
Yeah. And so, like, we lost and found so many objects in that van. And so I'm, like, digging through. I'm pulling shit out. I'm like, where is this vest? Where's my stupid headlight? So now I'm, like, I'm just out of my rhythm, right? Like, this is not a curveball I was expecting. And now I'm, like, not focused. I'm not in the right headspace, like, whatever. But I find it. And I get back to the little exchange point in time. And as we're doing that, I'm like trying to get my headphones and my music going, and there is no reception. And when I say no reception, I mean like where at the top of your phone there's that little like SOS thing. Like there's no bars, there's nothing. I am a ding dong and have downloaded no music. So I now have no music. I'm in kind of a cranky space about this vest. It's all sweaty and my headlamp and my foot hurts. And it's not a huge incline, but the first like mile and a half of this leg for me has like 400 feet of incline. And if you've ever had tendonitis in your heel, incline is about the thing it hates the most. And so between having to wear this vest again and it's all wet and sweaty and my music isn't working and my ankle hurts and I'm climbing uphill.
And you've had no sleep.
I've had 0 sleep. I am not properly fed. And this is like towards the end of the race where the way the Ragnar works is they start like the slower people first with the idea that they're having to shut down the roads, right? So the faster people are going to catch up to the slower people. So like the further you get along, the more faster people are coming behind you. And they call that... Well, I think you're not supposed to call it a kill, but
oh yeah, right.
Like you think you're supposed to call it like making new friends or something,
That's what they call it now to be
politically
more politically correct. Which
but
is kind of
realistically, people call it a kill.
Yeah.
Like how many people did you pass on your leg? I'm just getting killed over and over and over running up this hill, and at some point I just like stop. I walk. I like cry. This is like. The van stops. Allie runs across the street. She's trying to give me music, but then somehow with the Bluetooth.
Oh,
and
with
like,
your headphones? I didn't have my case for my AirPods, and you have to have the case to like reconnect to Bluetooth. It was just.
So she's trying to give me music. She knows that I'm like need a distraction, but that's also not working. And finally, I'm like, I just got to keep going. I'll see you at the spot. Like I'm out of here. And I took a little while to walk, and I just had like a real conversation with myself. And I'm sure for the people who follow you or listen to this podcast, they've seen your like run the mile you're in tattoo.
Oh, right.
Backstory, I'm an idiot and don't know how to put on a temporary tattoo, so I don't have one because I applied it to the plastic. So I don't have one of these tattoos, which is fine. But I'm having like this thought about run the mile you're in, which isn't actually really what got me to get my booty moving again. It was more that my thing had just said, like, I had completed mile 2, and I was more like, leave those miles behind. Like, just because those first 2 sucked, these next 4 don't have to. And so that was sort of like the come to Jesus I had with myself was like, listen, it's not like a different race. Like, if you run a half marathon and at mile 2 you decide you don't want to finish it, you can just stop. That is not the way a Ragnar works. Like, other people are waiting for you to get to the exchange, right? So, like, there is no option but to keep going. Well, at that point, I might as well run them. Like, so that was kind of I kind of got it all out. I had a cry, and then I was like, all right, you have 4 miles left in this commitment. Just put one foot in front of the other and get moving. And it worked. And I came in and I finished strong. And
you did.
Ultimately, even with the, whatever that was, I think I still, like, averaged, like, 11-minute, just right around 11-minute miles. And I definitely walked slowly for a while.
Yeah.
It is very hard to run and cry at the same time if you have never tried that.
Yeah, if you've tried that before. You're like sobbing, trying to breathe.
Yeah, it was not great. It was not pretty in any way, shape, or form. But finished it out. Also, my music eventually kicked on, which was a big help. So I could focus on something else other than my own head trash.
Yeah, head trash. And it was starting to get pretty warm by your leg.
Hot.
It was so hot by your leg.
And humid. And foggy.
Yeah, and just, and you did it.
Yeah.
You did it.
We all did it.
We all did it.
Yeah.
It was a really cool experience. Yeah. I'll do it again. I like the idea of doing a trail one, doing something a little different, seeing what that's like. But yeah, like for a girls' weekend, we could have done something like, I don't know, gone to Napa or like somewhere else, like done like a beach. But no, I wanted to sleep in a van or in a tent.
And eat. I don't think I've ever eaten that many Uncrustables.
Oh, me either, actually. It was great. I really enjoyed those. And we also, because I bought a lot of the snacks, I like greatly overestimated the amount of food we would consume. And like we had so much food. But I didn't want anyone to be hungry either, like not have the right amount of snacks.
Yeah. Oh, so we had plenty.
We did. We sure did. So, yeah. I think it's funny that you say it's debatable as to whether or not you're a runner. There's plenty of people who probably listen to this or who have been on this. Are like, I don't know why you want me to be on here because I'm not really a runner. It's like, well.
Yeah, I was thinking about that like when I was preparing for this. I guess anybody who runs is a runner, right? Like,
yeah.
If you go to yoga, they say if you're breathing, you're doing yoga. But I think I'm more just like,
it's funny.
I'm more just like an active person, right? Like, I like to keep it moving. So I'm not the runner that you're going to see out like, if I'm not training for something, I am not running for more than an hour ever.
And you don't have a Garmin watch, right?
No.
So yeah, so that I think that helps people who are like, I don't know what I do. I'm the kind of person that if my Garmin's not charged, I will reschedule my run.
Yeah, no, a lot of times I don't even wear a watch.
Yeah, I can't.
I just go do it. Which, speaking of, one of the funniest things is in our van, I think you and Eileen probably are the most serious runners, I would say, or like most dedicated or whatever. And so I'd never met Eileen before this, but the thing that cracked me up most is we're in the parking lot getting ready to leave. We're like waiting on Sandy van to show up. And Eileen's like, yeah, I don't know if I packed enough sports bras.
God love her. She is just
like, she's like, I just threw like 3 things in a bag and like, I'm ready to roll. And I was just like, who is this creature? Like,
yeah.
I was like, I bet I counted my like outfits and like planned, like down to like, these are the socks that I will wear with, and she's like, I'm not sure if I brought enough stuff.
Yeah, you're like, okay. She was one of the only ones who'd ever done one before. And she's like, I don't really remember the details. We didn't worry a lot about that. And then I would also put Jennifer Nye into the more serious runner category.
Yeah.
And she, very detail-oriented planner. And so it's so funny to just see the different personalities come together.
Yeah.
And just how people are so incredibly different in terms of how they
when
operate.
When I said I didn't have a Garmin watch, the like 2 or 3 heads just stared at me. And I was like, run around my neighborhood. Like, I
know where I'm going. I know when, or maybe you don't know when it's a mile or not, and you just don't care. You're just trying to move around.
No, usually I just like have a break of like, oh, I have an hour free. All right, well, let's go move my body. Like, and that's it. And it's like, whatever gets done, gets done.
What a life. It's so funny to me because I'm like, so when I started this podcast, I would start to talk to people who didn't run with headphones and didn't run with music. And I thought that was like, I was like, no way. I can never, ever do that. I just ran my first marathon without headphones maybe I could like run without a watch sometimes just to be like, who cares? But I don't think I can, because then it's not on Strava. And like, how am I supposed to get my Strava kudos if I don't sync it with my watch? Callie's looking at me like I'm insane, because I am. And I love it. So whatever. Who knows?
To each their own.
Maybe one day. But
Maybe.
yeah, if we run together at the lake, we go to Lake Wawasee up in Syracuse, Indiana, which is northern Indiana. And we've run maybe only one time, maybe twice.
Maybe twice. I think one time we walked because I think Doug went.
Yeah, Doug the dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I always had my watch ready to go. Okay, we're going to go this far. And you're just like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm here. Whatever.
Whatever works for you. Again,
Yeah.
I'm a yes person.
Yeah.
I'm just like, sure, that sounds great.
Sounds
That's
great.
what you want to do. I'll be right beside you.
It's the best. So, okay, so let's rewind now
Okay.
and let people get to know you a little bit in terms of
Sure.
like, where are you from? Did you move your body growing up? Were you like a sports gal? What did you, you know?
Yeah.
Who are you, Callie?
Who am I? Existential questions. So I am from a little farm town in northern Indiana, northwest Indiana. It's called Winnemac. It's not close to anything, so if you know it, you probably know someone from there. And growing up, Winnemac's like a 1A school, so very tiny. I played a lot of sports. Like as a youth, I played baseball at Little League because it's so small. There was no like child softball close to me.
Oh.
Like so I played baseball with the boys.
That's cool.
I was a gymnast until I was, I think, 11 or 12. And so I also was quite the little tumbler. I was always just a monkey, climbing things, flipping off of things, doing things that would probably give most parents heart palpitations. On the other hand, my dad is a farmer and my mom was a nurse. So, like, they were just kind of like, brush it off. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. And then when I got to be around, like, middle school age, my parents basically said I needed to choose to continue with, like, gymnastics and dance and some of that stuff. And, like, I was playing, like, summer softball or whatever. Or if I wanted to participate in, like, high school sports. But I couldn't do both because it was just, like,
a lot of
we
stuff.
lived really far from the school. My gym for gymnastics was in, like, a whole different town. Like, the dance studio was elsewhere. So it was, like, you kind of have to pick. You know, this is before Uber, but my mom was, like, you know, an
The
unpaid Uber driver for. And so I decided to do high school sports. I wasn't, you know, a good enough gymnast that I was going to be, you know,
Competing or
at the next level.
Yeah.
And so, I golfed my whole life. So my family's all golfs. Again, debatable if we want to classify that as being athletic. But and then in high school, I ran track and played basketball. So I've always run. I was pretty fast, but I had never run more than 3 miles until I trained for my first half.
Okay. So do you remember what were your track events?
Yeah, I ran the 400, which is
Okay.
like the devil of a race.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's just an all-out sprint for as long as you can go. And notoriously, I would cross the finish line, go directly into the football field, and vomit every time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Notoriously, did people call you something because of that?
No, it was just like known that like
Callie's gonna go.
as soon as I crossed the finish line, like my next step was like into the field so that I could
Puke.
immediately puke. It didn't matter what I did beforehand, like, because you're just, like, running, I guess, that hard. It's
Right.
pretty common in that race. And then I ran, like, the 800, the 200, the 4x4. But the
Yeah.
400 was, like, the
Your jam.
race I was best at. And I
Yeah.
do want to say best. Please remember, I went to a 1A school. Like, if you wanted to participate in a sport, you could.
That's, you know, when I went to Westfield High School, which now people from this area would know that Westfield's gotten quite big. When I went there, it was like 250 kids a class, and I could play any sport I wanted. That's how I ended up. I just wanted to try everything. So
I
I
had,
did.
like, 90 kids in my class.
Yeah, that's pretty small.
Pretty small.
But yeah, I tried. I
Anything.
did track. I wish I would have done track more than I did. I only did it my freshman year. And I never tried cross country. So, you know, whatever. Who knows if I could have been good or not. But yeah, 90 kids in your class.
Yeah, roughly. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
exact-
ish.
Small.
Yeah, really small.
Yeah.
So then you went from really small to like really big.
Yeah, I went to IU. When I was at IU, like, I took some classes at the Hyper. Like, I would run. One of my roommates ran, like, occasionally. So I did yoga. So I was, like, kind of not athletic. Oh, I played some intramural sports.
Yeah, okay. I could see that for sure.
Yeah. So I was like active.
Yeah. Did you ever participate in Little Five as an athlete? Because that would be amazing.
I don't know if I should tell this.
Yes.
No, I was friends with some girls who their sorority Kappas were heavily involved in Little Five. So like I did some training rides with them, but I personally did not participate. But my group of friends had an event every year called Little Five, where there were stationary bikes, think like Pelotons.
Oh, God.
Only pre-Peloton. They were like Johnny G spinners. And the way that Little 500 worked was that you had a team of 4, and somebody always had to be on the bike. I mean, minus like the exchanges. And the first team to drink 4 gallons of beer won. But only the person on the bike could drink. So someone had to always be on the bike, and the person on the bike had to be the one doing the drinking.
Gallons. 4 people.
4 people. So that's 1
Do
gallon
the math,
per
people.
person.
Jesus Christ.
Speaking
Callie?
of events that created a lot of vomiting.
Right.
I mean, to be fair, I only participated in this once because
I have a feeling that's
how
all
you learned your lesson. And when the first team finished, everybody else got to quit. But it was special.
That is so special.
Also,
tell people what Little Five is too, by the way, because I realize there's some people that aren't Indiana people.
Yeah, so Little 500 is a bicycle race.
Did you just say bicycle?
Bicycle, like a bike. I was going to say bike, and then I was like bike.
Bicycle.
Yeah,
bicycle.
Not motorized. It's a bicycle race, essentially in a velodrome. If you've ever seen Breaking Away, the movie is based on it. It happens every year, and the teams are majority made up of the fraternities and sororities, but then there are the GDI teams, which are the independent teams, like the Cutters, which is the one that the movie is based on. And so there's a lot of rivalry between the fraternities, but also the independents, and there's a lot of trash talking and, a lot of prestige around winning it. And this happens, I think it's in April every year.
That sounds right.
In Bloomington.
Because it's before the 500 in Indianapolis.
And it's after spring break. So I'm going to say it's in April.
Yeah, I think that tracks.
Yeah.
I went every year at college. I went down for Little Five.
Yeah.
I never watched the race.
I've spectated it a couple of times. I've also not. And there's a lot of like partying.
Little Five.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever win that?
I only did it one time, and we did not at all win. No.
Okay.
It was like, as you might imagine, it was like dudes that won.
Yeah,
because they would
just
like bong the entire gallon, and bike. It was insane. Like,
That
I don't
sounds
recommend
awful.
this. I am not condoning this. If you are a current student at IU, do not replicate this event.
Yeah, no. Yeah, do not do that. Do water instead.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Well, now, though, have you seen the college students carry around their own gallons when they tailgate?
Of what? Water?
No.
Oh.
I'm assuming it's some sort of alcohol. But I guess, so when I went down for homecoming.
I said water.
It's
fine.
I mean, maybe
sorry.
some
I don't know.
of them are. When I went down for homecoming this year, because IU football is actually good for the first time ever. Anyhow, all these students were carrying around gallon jugs. And after a little investigation, I learned that when they tailgate, they make their own gallon of concoction of whatever they're going to drink all day and take it with them and put their name on it so that they can hold it and have a lid the entire time, because I guess so that people can't roofie people in the tailgate lots. Like, it's a safety measure.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know how safe drinking that
seem
volume
safe,
is,
but okay.
The idea being that you can keep it on you the whole time and
yeah,
there's no, I guess this is the logic I was given by a student. I mean, or maybe that's just what they tell their parents.
Right. Oh, Mom, this is my water. Yeah. It's water so I can hydrate while I drink. Yeah. Do girls wear it like a purse? Because I feel like you could probably wear it almost like a holster, like a.
The hydro jugs that have the band on them?
Yeah.
I saw a girl who had one of those through the handle of it.
Okay, because that seems also that's a huge thing to carry. Anyway.
Random. So random.
So random. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so IU was a blast, I'm sure, because I had fun every time I visited IU. Yes. And then after college, did you come right back to Indy?
Pretty much. There was a small stint, but I had never lived in Indy.
Oh, that's true. I guess not back too.
So I had a friend who was looking for a sublessor on her apartment, and so I moved into that, and she moved in with her significant other or whatever it was at the time. So yeah, pretty much. And I've been here for the most part since. I've done a couple of small stints related to jobs that have taken me to other places for like smaller periods of time. I did grad school in Philly for a little while, but mostly I've been in Indy. And honestly, actually, pretty much the whole time in the same house. I've been in my house for, I think, 19 years.
That's so cool. I need to come visit your house because I've seen plenty of your DIY projects that you've done.
Yeah.
And I need to like see them in person.
Okay, come on over anytime. Also, I'm right by the Monon, so we can go for a run.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yay. And okay, and so at what point did you train for your first half?
Sure. So my friend Jenny, who you know also at the lake, was getting married in 2009.
Okay.
And I don't really remember how the plan got hatched, but it's like, like it's very common for brides to
100%.
get in shape or whatever.
Yes.
So somewhere in there, we decided to run the Indy Mini in May, and her wedding was in, I think, August or something. And that was my first half, and she lived right down the street from me at the time, so we trained together. And it's also still my fastest half. I was probably the most dedicated training I've done, though, as well. Like, that does help.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that was, I think, 2009, and I've done, I think, 8 since.
Okay. Because you've done Monumental.
Yep.
And what was the other one?
I've done...
Carmel.
I've done Geist.
Okay.
That one's a little hilly.
It is a little hilly.
Yep. I've done Bloomington.
Oh. Is that one hilly too?
The start.
Okay.
Was like, I think that was the second one I did. I'm trying to remember. It'd be like 2010 or 11.
Yeah. I'm assuming you don't have a spreadsheet like I do.
No. You hear how seriously I take this, right? I've done the Carmel a couple of times. I attempted to do the Rock and Roll in Las Vegas with you.
I was going to say, yep. We'll have to tell that story in a little bit.
Yeah. And currently, a friend of mine's trying to talk me into doing the Gasparilla.
Excuse me?
In Florida. Gasparilla is in the Tampa Bay, like in the bay, and it's like this whole pirate thing. I mean, it's like very elaborate. Like,
sounds kind of
they
fun.
shut the city down. Like, the streets, it's like there's a huge parade, like the biggest parade I've ever seen in my life. But apparently, that weekend, there is also I think there's a full, but there's definitely a half.
Okay.
And my friend Alexis, who you met, who came here to Indiana to run her first full just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
She lives in Tampa, and she's running it. And so she's trying to get me to
go down.
Yeah, go do that. It's in February. So if I'm going to do it, I might want to think about training.
Thinking about that. Yeah. Okay. Well, so it's going to be harder for me to convince you to come to Vegas then at the end of February. Or
I would be trained for both.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay.
I'll look at the dates.
I'll
see what goes on.
Yeah, see what happens. Well, we were supposed to go to Tampa for fall. Yeah, what's today? Yeah, fall break. And obviously the hurricane happened, so we didn't go. But I was like looking up all the places to run in Tampa, and it looks like a great place to run in general. And then, except for the fact that it's Florida and it's probably just really hot. But
yeah, if you're gonna run in Florida, you should do it really early, or you're going to need that glow-in-the-dark vest and do it at night.
Yeah.
But, like, midday, my family mostly lives in Florida, or they're snowbirds, so they're living there part of the time. And so I'm there a lot in the winter because I don't particularly like the cold. And I consistently will have a break in my day and be like, oh, I'm going to go for a run. And I get, like, to get out of my dad's neighborhood is, like, roughly a half mile. Not quite. And some days I'll get like to the end of the road and I'm like, nope.
Yeah. No, thanks.
I'm going to have to save this for later, or like I'll go swim or do something else because it'll just be so hot and humid. It's like not even. I'm kind of a fair weather runner. I'm a fair weather in general, everything, right? Like golfer, runner. If it's the weather's too hot, too cold, I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point in your life were you engaged? Did you almost get married? When was that in all this?
Let's see. It would have been about 10 years ago now. 10 years ago now. So
okay.
2016?
2016.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've done your halves since then.
Yeah, I did them before, and I did them
before, after,
during. Yeah.
During.
Yeah.
So how did you meet this person, and how long did you date this person?
We met through mutual friends, and we dated for many years, 4 or 5 of them.
Well, I know this is like such a shitty ass topic, but I also feel like you're the only person that I know personally that this has happened to, and I feel like that's such a really, there's a few harder things that you've certainly gone through, but
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so the long and short of it, it's not my favorite topic, as you might imagine, is we called off a wedding, and we called off a wedding like less than 30 days before the actual wedding. So also something I don't recommend, but definitely the better time than getting married and divorced and all of that, right? Like perspective. But if you call something off that close, they don't really give you your money back because obviously they can't resell the venue or all of that stuff. So it was a pretty not great time in my life. But what's interesting is I would call that a loss, right? You're grieving something. Yeah. Grief's such a funny thing because in that scenario, I ran all the time. But I was mad. Yeah. Like, I was upset and I was running a lot. I also was not eating properly. I just was not in a great headspace, but I was running a lot. And running is ultimately probably what kept me somewhat sane. Yeah. But then if you fast forward to 2022, so whatever that is, 7 years later, my mom passed away unexpectedly. And that's why I say grief is a weird thing because I couldn't move. Like I wish running would have got me through that dark period in my life, but I was so sedentary. I ate all my feelings. I had more mac and cheese than is reasonable. But it's just really fascinating that like certain, difficulties that you face in your life, your body reacts in one way. And I think when the wedding got called off, I was angry. I was holding that, and running was cathartic.
Right. And it's that like revenge.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like I'm gonna but I don't need you. I'm gonna fucking
tear it up. I'm gonna get through this. Yeah. But like when my mom passed away, it was just like it just stopped me in my tracks. Yeah. So the Ragnar is the thing that got me to start running again. Like really running. I mean, I was still going to Orange Theory, but like if you go to Orange Theory, you run for approximately 14 to 20 minutes. Like it's okay, like you get like a mile or two out. Yeah. So the Ragnar was because the rock and roll half was in February of 2022 and my mom passed away in June. So I had trained and I was still running April, May because I was going to run something else since I wasn't like, and I was healing, whatever. Long story. And then, when my mom passed away, I didn't really run or train for anything. And so it wasn't until this that I'd done any running other than like Orange Theory type running. Yeah.
How did you find out? Were you with her at all?
No.
Leading up to it? No.
No. She had a heart attack and my dad found her in the morning and he called me at like 6 a.m. Yeah. Not to make this political, but gonna a little bit. My mom was a nurse, as I mentioned, and pretty big advocate for women's rights. And she unexpectedly died of a heart attack the night they overturned Roe versus Wade.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah, geez. Yeah. I don't even know what to say to that.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously, I also am not saying that there is a causation or correlation
here.
But
you're like...
But the timing is unique.
Yeah, right. Well, obviously, I mean, there's, stress on the heart. I mean, geez.
Yeah. I know, she was 63. Too young.
Way too young. It's so awful. Getting through, it's just different, obviously, living life without your mom. And how is your dad?
My dad's good. He, I think, candidly, he handled it better than I did. But what I'm learning, unfortunately, is that the older you get, probably, maybe not, I know there's exceptions, but for most people, the older you get, the more death you experience.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like the number of people who I know who have lost a parent in the 2 years since my mom passed is like 5. Like 5 people that I'm like actually close to in some way. And I think until you've experienced it, maybe you just don't see it, realize it, it doesn't register on your radar as much. Right. But anyways, my dad's doing pretty good. But I guess I was saying that at 70, he's grieved more people and lost more people. Right. And so I think he was really, a rock for me. And he's down in Florida. So I'm headed down there to see him for Christmas. I need to buy a plane ticket.
So do I.
List of stuff to do.
So I'll be down there after Christmas. We're going to D.C. and then we're going to go down to Naples.
In Florida?
Naples. Yeah. Nice. Bonita Springs. I forget where your dad is.
Cape Coral, Punta Gorda area.
Okay. So like an
Fort
hour-ish?
Yeah, it depends on the traffic.
Yeah. So you've just been through some really hard stuff in your life. And then not to mention where you're like, long story, I mean, you've had How many procedures on your knee? 3?
I've had 3 knee surgeries and I've broken 4 ribs. The broken ribs are how I ended up not running the rock and roll in
Let's
Vegas.
talk about Vegas.
Sure.
Let's talk about Vegas. Because I was so excited and we were going to meet up.
We did meet up.
Well, we did have dinner the night before. But I was thinking of, like the morning of the race, I'm like, man, I don't know where Callie is. What's going on?
So the night before the race, I have a friend that lives in Las Vegas. And the night before the race, we went to dinner. And on the way back from dinner, also just a little more context, people that live in Vegas do not go to the Strip. Like, if you're going to meet a Vegas native and go to dinner, the place you are going is not on the Strip, right? Yeah. It's in, like, Henderson or, some other Summerlin place in Vegas. So anyhow, my friend picked me up, and we went to dinner and had a nice dinner. And we weren't drinking or anything. I think I had, like, 1 glass of wine, or maybe we weren't drunk by any means. And we were leaving dinner, and he was driving his car, and this high schooler, I know she was a high schooler because she was literally wearing her Letterman's jacket, like ran a red light, turned into oncoming traffic, and T-boned us, like full airbag deployments, etc. And when we got hit, my seatbelt locked up like it's supposed to, but in the impact, the center console between, the passenger and driver's seat, it threw me into that, and it broke my floating ribs in the front and the back. Like the seatbelt, the combination of like the seatbelt locking up and my body hitting that console. This is embarrassing, but whatever. I also peed my pants in this exact scenario.
I told you this. I peed my pants during the Vegas half marathon.
I know. I think it was in solidarity.
It was. And I didn't even really know it at that time.
But so we get slammed into by this girl. She's obviously just beside herself, right? I think she's like 16. She's freaking out. And I mean, I can walk, but it's extremely painful. So the ambulance comes, and they're basically, first of all, I'm covered in pee. So they give me like a sheet, whatever.
God, you're like, fuck.
Yeah. And then, and they're basically like, they check me out, and they're like, do you want to go to the emergency room? And I'm like, they're like, we think you probably have broken ribs, but like, they're not going to do anything for you in the emergency room either. Like, you can't fix broken ribs. And I
did not know that.
Yeah. And I was like, and I thought maybe because like I was starting to bruise from the seatbelt, And I was like, maybe it's just like a deep tissue bruise. Like maybe it's whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to take this ambulance ride. Like, I don't want to pay the money. I don't want to deal with the insurance and like whatever. So I'm like, no. So my friend's siblings come and get us, and it is clear I will not be running the next day. Like, it's getting progressively more painful.
Hey, quick reminder, this podcast is brought to you by Athlete Bouquets. Visit athletebouquets.com to celebrate the finish lines and milestones of the people you love, and use code PODCAST for 10% off your order.
And so the next day I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like going to go to the bathroom, and like going to the bathroom, it hurts so bad that I'm like crying. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should go get this looked at. So we go to like the med check or whatever it's called in Nevada, and they do an x-ray, and they're like, yeah, you have broken ribs. And I was like, great. And they're like, here's some very mild pain pills.
Yeah.
Off you go. And so then I had rented a hotel room right there on the Strip, and so I took a pain pill and got a beer and watched the race. And then that was that.
Meanwhile, I have no idea this has happened. And yeah, I remember you're like, well, I didn't want you to worry or feel like you had to come do anything. And I mean, it is kind of weird because we're friends, but we're not like super close. And so it's like, but I remember being like, holy crap, Callie?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, I would have been really worried, and I would have probably wanted to come wherever, like ER, if you, by the time, but you didn't even go at that time.
Not until the next day. And then I was
crazy.
Like, all right, I probably because when it hurt to use the restroom, I was like, oh, what if I have like internal bleeding or like some other thing that I don't know?
No, yeah, I think that is.
Yeah. And so, but no, they were just like, yeah, you've got like a bunch of broken ribs. And I'm like, all right. Great. And they said, I don't know, I think they said 6 to 12 weeks or something like that for them to get better. And in my head, I heard, of course, 6 weeks, which then I was like, I'm superhuman, so that's like 4 weeks. No, I'm going to tell you, all 12 of those weeks were painful. Like, it took forever for it to feel normal again. Like, not like excruciatingly painful, but like definitely a daily reminder, like, you broke your ribs. It was wild to me.
So awful. I can't believe I guess I've never really seen anybody, what do they do? Like put
Nothing.
a cast around your stomach? That just doesn't work. So I guess I never really thought about that.
Like, unless you break, like, your sternum,
Okay.
then they put, like, a harness thing on you.
Jesus.
But,
Well,
like,
God.
if you just break some ribs, they're just like, good luck.
So the ribs just like
They just heal themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I also learned in this experience that your bottom 2 ribs are floating ribs.
Right. You said floating ribs, and I was kind of like nodding, like, yeah.
It's so
I
they
had no
don't
idea.
connect to the sternum; they just connect to the next rib. Essentially, if you're a nurse and you,
I want to
like
pick. Like,
correcting
I'll
me,
look at
that's
my
fine.
the skeleton that we have in our basement from Halloween. I'll
Yeah.
just check that out. and
But
be
I think
like,
it's because
oh.
they don't connect to the sternum. That's why
Okay.
they're called floating.
Yeah.
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 And then, to your
Jeez.
point, I've had 3 knee surgeries,
Yeah,
all on the
right.
same knee.
Knee.
I had an
Knee.
ACL surgery that didn't go well, so then I had to have like a corrective ACL surgery. And then that created so much scar tissue. And then in physical therapy, like something happened to my meniscus. So the 3rd surgery was really like cleaning all that up and also like fixing my meniscus while they were in there. So I had 3 knee surgeries in 3 years.
At what point do you have a knee replacement?
I don't know. I hope to not find out.
Right. I hope not either. But it's like
Honestly, my
there's so
bionic
many-
knee is like in better condition than my other knee, to
Yeah.
be like fair. Or the same. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really. It makes noises. It's like kind of sounds like Rice Krispies.
So wait, you have a bionic knee?
No, not really. That's just
Okay.
what I like to call
You
it.
like to call it. I was like, wait, I'm confused.
It's
now.
got a pig part in it.
Okay. All right.
So I have a
it's-
pig's knee.
Okay. You have a pig knee.
Yeah.
Fun. Pig knee. It's almost like pygmy.
Mm-hmm, just like it.
Just like it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Because you didn't have a replacement, which is the only way you would be truly bionic. Okay. Anyway, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Next year, Vegas. Think about it. We'll look at the dates. Think about that. So you travel a lot for work, at least from my view. Maybe you don't as much, but you get to go cool places for your work sometimes.
Yeah.
No?
I have gone some cool places for work. I also just travel a lot independently.
Yeah.
I am lucky to have a job that A, I work remote, and B, I have a pretty robust vacation package. Plus, because I'm remote and my role is global, I can kind of be flexible around time zones and things. Like, not all the time, but it does afford me a lot of flexibility. I have traveled to, I've been at my job 7+ years, and in that time, I've been to some pretty cool places. Last year, we had our global sales meeting, sales kickoff in London, which was very cool. I did some running while I was in London.
There you go.
And then my second year that I was there, I think that's when it was, I had the opportunity to go to Russia, which was extremely cool.
You went to Russia?
Yeah, for work. At the time, we did business in Russia. Since the conflict, we no longer
right.
do business in
Yeah.
Russia. But at that point in time, I think I would have been 2019, 18 or 19.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was very cool.
There's not many people who've ever been to Russia. And now certainly you look and you're like, well, or may never, ever go.
Yeah, I have a Russian visa, so it gets some interesting questions when I go in, and not like they're usually just like asking like, why did you go to Russia? Like, I mean,
why in the world did you go there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have offices all over the world. So I've also been to Marseille, France, which is where we manufacture our flow products, flow reagents. And then we're headquartered here in Indianapolis. And then the United States have offices in Loveland, Colorado, and in San Jose.
Yeah.
And we previously had offices in Miami, but we're getting ready to relocate those or do something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So definitely do some travel around with work, but a lot of the places I've been have just been
because somebody asked you and you're like, sure.
That's exactly right.
I'd love to go there.
That is exactly right.
What is the coolest place that you've run in the world?
I love Paris. Paris is easily my favorite city that I've been to. So I would probably say, running near the Eiffel Tower is a pretty cool experience. I also really enjoy running along water. So I like anywhere that you kind of have something scenic and beautiful to look at. And water's just not something that, like, where I live is something that's part of my normal runs,
That's
right?
true.
Like,
Unless you think of a canal in Broderpool, but
I don't think that counts. Pat McAfee jumped in at one time. It's disgusting.
It is gross. Yeah. Beautifully scenic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not the water that I mean more like blue water, ocean water, large bodies of water.
Yep. I know. The actual scenic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me back to the Ragnar, that like when Sue ran by that lake. It was just like so beautiful.
Yeah.
Did you run by any lakes during your legs?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I did one time, I think. That's it.
Honestly, my night run, I don't really know what I was running by because it was pitch black and very foggy.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I could have been running next to anything and
had no idea.
So maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, it was probably a lake there and had no idea.
Yeah.
And since you don't use a Garmin watch, you can't see
Nope.
see the route and be like, oh, that's the lake I ran by. No, you have no idea.
I can see why a Garmin watch would be useful for like something like that when you don't know where you're running. For me, I pretty much just walk out of my house and run to the Monon, and I run the same like 10-mile stretch of the Monon, like 5 miles in either direction.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I kind of roughly know how far it is and like, or how long it takes me, and that's pretty much where I run. Or like at the lake, I run, but same deal. I just walk out and start running, and I turn around at some point.
Yeah, there you go. I can't wait till it's like truly we have a path all the way around the lake.
I know.
Because they kind of say, oh yeah, you can run it. I'm like, yeah, we're getting
there.
there.
Well, especially over where I'm at, like the path it's scary over there.
Yeah.
Like I'll run and park at the golf course and run like behind the like Lily Properties or whatever. And I will walk over by my house, but I'll like just put in like one. I need to get some of those.
Oh yeah, I had the aftershocks. Are really nice.
I just, again, because I don't take it seriously, I also don't have serious headphones. I just put in my AirPods.
Yeah. Well, if you can keep those in your ears, like for me, I don't know, I guess my ear holes are a weird size, and like even though they give you options of like, choose your own whatever, mine never would stay in.
Yeah, mine stay in, but like from a safety perspective,
right, totally understand.
I like will only wear one when I'm up at the lake because just for the audience, the road that I'm talking about is like barely wide enough for 2 cars to go down, and so there's not any shoulder to be running on. Yeah. So if you're out there, it's a little risky.
Be able to hear. Yeah. Be ideal, for sure.
Yeah.
So are you currently? I know this is your probably like second favorite topic in the whole world. Are you currently single?
I am.
Okay. What are the most annoying things people ask or say to you about being single?
I think it really depends. I don't find too much of it to be all that annoying unless you're on like the dating apps, but I just don't do them anymore because I can't handle them. And people, I think this is true regardless of dating apps, that like the internet has emboldened people to feel as though they can say things that in no way would you ever walk up to somebody and say, like if I met you in a restaurant or a bar or at, a meet cute at the farmer's market or whatever it is, like there's no scenario like in real life. If we'll say farmer's market because it makes a cuter rom-com. Like if I'm at the farmer's market and some gentleman is like, oh, that girl doesn't have a ring on, I'm going to go see if she's single or whatever the thought process would be. There's like no scenario where that person walks up and is like, so what are you looking for on here? What do you, like that's like the opening question of like, so what are you looking for? And I guess there could be a lot of answers to that. But like when I was on the dating apps, literally put in my profile, looking for actual dates. And I'd be like, so then when someone would ask it, I'd be like, looking for someone who reads the profile.
Looking for somebody who has an attention to detail.
Right.
The smallest kind.
Yeah, like read one sentence. Like, but there's just, I don't know. And then obviously there are good guys out there. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm sure that if you're a man on the dating apps, that there are all sorts of other things that women do as well.
Right,
right. So, but in general, I also don't love small talk. Like,
oh yeah, my sister Casey, she's like the epitome of hating small talk. I don't love it either because I'm not super great at it.
Yeah, and so I think it's just it's hard to like form a connection with someone via text, which is kind of like a weird and confusing medium
because you can't
for conversation.
Yeah, totally.
And so I just find it all kind of exhausting. So yeah, single, but that's okay.
Single, looking for actual dates.
Yeah, exactly.
Real life dates, not like texting forever.
I just
so interesting.
It just doesn't seem that complicated to me. Like, to plan a date. Like, we're 40 years old. Like, you plan how to feed yourself every day, don't you? Like, it's just that with another person. Like, it's not that complicated, people.
Yeah. And then we talk in real life.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
I know. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, at least do you have family that's like, oh, like every time you see them? That's what I picture. Like,
No.
That's
my
good.
family is real chill.
That's good.
I think, much like myself, I'm an only child, so my family's pretty small in terms of it's just me and my dad since my mom passed. I think my dad would love if I found someone that spend time with, and I would as well. But I think the older you get, the more you're like kind of know what you're looking for, and like maybe there's exceptions to those things, but like there are certain things that I really want with the rest of my life. Like, if nothing else, like my mom dying really early, I'm not, gonna pass away at 63, I don't think, but I'm 41. So that means I've theoretically got 22 years left, right?
God.
Or that I'm 66% through my life. So, like, what am I gonna do with the remaining 33%?
And not settling.
Well,
right. I mean,
and it's like there's stuff I want to do. Like, I love to travel.
Yeah.
So, like, I went on a date with a guy. Just what happened, and he doesn't have a passport. And he's like, well, I've never had the opportunity to travel. And, like, maybe there's a condition that's true, but I'm also like, you're 43.
All you have to do is, like, get a passport and, like, buy
go.
a plane ticket.
Like, like, what do you mean? You
not
never,
hard.
like,
yeah.
Like, are you in witness protection? Like, what do you mean? Why can't you
like,
just go, And, like, so for me, like, I'm like, that's not a fit because I have all these places I want to go and see and explore. And, like, if in your 43 years on this planet, you have never felt compelled to do that, then that's just not who you are as a person, which is fine. Just not for me.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you were back on the apps, okay, looking for actual dates and someone with a passport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's true. Like, and you're like, dang, yeah, you're nice, but like, yeah, that's not gonna.
Right. Like, what are my values? What do I want to accomplish with the remaining time that I have?
Yeah.
And seeing the world is like really high on my list. So, like, in that scenario, that's just not the right person for me,
Yeah. Well, when I do an international marathon, I will be asking you to join, Callie.
Okay. I don't think I'm going to qualify for any of the important ones.
Well, you don't have to qualify. You just have to get in. Here's the deal. With the, like, big major ones, like, sure, it'd be so cool to experience those. But, and I've talked to a couple people on this podcast about this topic where it's like, but I'd almost rather be like, I really want to go back to Luxembourg where I studied abroad. They have a marathon there. It's at night. That sounds really cool. Like, I want to pick places that I want to go or revisit and use that as an excuse, like then have a race to go explore that area. I think running somewhere is a great way to, like, see somewhere.
And it's, I mean, obviously not everywhere, but certainly Europe, like, just traveling by foot is just normal, right? Like, even if you're not running, like, you're walking everywhere. Like,
yeah.
That always, like, cracks me up about America and Americans and, like, how, like, tied we are to our cars and our parking lots and, like if you have to walk, like, 3 blocks from the parking lot to wherever you're, like, people, it's like,
yeah,
what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, I try to think about that sometimes when I'm, like, trying to look for a spot. I'm like, just park. Yeah. Just park and walk.
Yeah.
Like, it's true. Like, we're so programmed to find the close, like, limit the amount almost, like, of walking that you do. It's so wild to me.
Yeah,
to remind myself of that.
Yeah, and then you go to Europe and it's like somehow you just flip a switch and become a different person and you're like, oh, I walk everywhere now. Right.
You, like, look and you're like, oh, this restaurant's a mile away. Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll make a walk, we'll plan and we'll walk there. Yeah. And here you're like, okay, great. I'll call an Uber or I'll get in my car.
I walk all the time and my friends consistently think that I'm crazy. Now, is it, like, potentially unsafe to walk at night?
Yeah,
sure.
Callie.
But, like, also, I don't want to live my life in fear. Like, I'm going to walk. I like to walk. But if we were in Europe, it wouldn't be weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just interesting to me. But.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, God, that makes me nervous for you. My mom instincts. Yeah, delete it from my brain. I'm going to need you to reshare your location so that I can see you at all times because we were trying to do that at the Ragnar to figure out where people were.
I was so sleep deprived. I just kept saying, like, hitting the wrong thing. You can share for, like, a hot second or, like, share for, like, an hour, share for, like, a day.
Yeah.
And I just kept hitting the, like, one that just tells you where I am right this minute.
Yes,
and we were in the van together, and I'm like, God.
Here I am, guys. I'm right here. I'm right next to you. I'm in the van. God.
Second row. Next
row.
to Jen.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I figured it out and shared it. I don't know, whatever it was.
And then we had
24
no
hours.
service, so it wouldn't work. So it was really hard. Jennifer had an air tag. I don't think we ever could get that really to work either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, we were all fine. So I'm going to ask you the end of the podcast questions now.
Okay.
You ready for those?
I am.
Okay. First one. Your favorite running mantra and or song?
Ooh, my favorite running song is probably Seven Nation Army.
What's that?
The
Do I
White
know?
Stripes. Dun, 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 dun. I don't sing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you. Sorry, I don't know that. I'm not
It's just
cool.
got a really strong bass line to it. Like the beat is
Yeah, that's good.
is good. And I think my running mantra is more like just keep moving. Like
What did we put on your sweatshirt?
drishti, like focus,
Oh, that's
which is like a yoga
Thing?
type
Yeah,
of word about like finding your point, your focal point or whatever. But I think like just keep moving, right? Like I used to be more competitive, I guess, and think, oh, I'm gonna PR, oh, I need to do it, and now I'm just like, I don't know if you listen to like the armchair expert Dax Shepard, but like
Not
Monica
enough.
on there,
Yeah.
she talks about wogging, which is just when she like alternates walking and jogging, and I'm like, yeah, if you want to walk in the middle of your run, you can. Like, you are not competing with anybody but yourself.
I know.
Like, let it go, sis. Like, you want to walk? Cool. You want to sprint? Great. You know? So, like, I think, like, for me, it's like, just keep moving. Put one foot in front of the next. And I think that that's sort of the mentality I've had when I've had difficulties in my life, too, right? Is like, and you and I talked about this in the van when we were driving home in the pouring rain about, like, nothing always gets worse. Like, eventually things get better.
Yes.
For the most part, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's some exceptions to that. But, like, in general, just keep moving, keep putting one foot in front of the other. Nothing always gets worse.
Yeah.
Whether it's that, you know, uphill second mile where you're having a mental breakdown and crying and trying to run, or if it's getting through grief, or it's doing my expense report at work, like just keep moving.
Yeah. It's so good. Good. Well, I can't wait to add the White Stripes to the playlist. I have a playlist for this podcast that it might be a little outdated right now, but then when I listen to it, when I run occasionally, then I'll be like, I remember who's to what song, and that's really fun. Anyway,
Yeah, you'll have to share it with me.
Yeah, I will. And then next finish line or milestone.
You know, I don't have one that I'm training for right now, but I might say yes to
Do a couple.
Might say yes to the Gasparilla with Alexis. Might say yes to Vegas, get my retribution.
Yeah, I got my retribution because I went back and didn't pee my pants
Yes.
during the race.
That's a good one. That's
Yep.
a good one. So I don't know, but I think that's kind of normal for me in terms of like being December. Again, I'm a fair weather person, so like whatever activity I'm doing is happening indoors right now, right? And so I'm like doing the Orange Theory 12 Days of Fitness right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, stuff like that. I don't know if that's exactly a milestone. It's just going to the gym 12 times. But
Yeah. There you go. Woo. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, celebrate completing that because, like for a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, cool. Good job.
Yeah.
Finish that up. So wait, when did it start? What day are you on? Did it start at December 1?
Yeah.
And it's 12 days?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. At least it's not 25.
No, there's too many.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah, you got to get rest in there. Rest
do
is
you do
important.
them all in a row or you just do 12 classes in December?
Oh, well, to be fair, I'm not probably even going to get to all 12.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Because I only
just
pay
don't know
for
these
8
things
per month.
Oh,
it's
so
gonna
you're
be,
like,
but like, you know.
Yeah, well, it feels like they should let you do that in
You
December.
can pay out of pocket for like additional, or if you have unlimited, but I reduced down to 8 times a month. I was unlimited, but I reduced down to 8 when I was training for the Ragnar because I was running all the time.
Yeah, trying to run more.
Yeah. So
well, thanks for doing this. I'm so glad I got to see you.
yes, this
It's
is
fun
wonderful.
to hang out, and hopefully we can get a Sandy Van reunion on the books.
Do you
too.
think we can request Sandy specifically?
Yeah. We're gonna need Sandy. What was the other one?
I don't remember. It wasn't our van.
Wilbur.
It was.
Wilbur.
Yes.
That's a pretty good name for a van.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. I digress. Thank you, Callie.
Thanks.
Thank you to everybody who's listened, and happy running. It's always the most awkward.
If you enjoyed this Sandy Boy Productions podcast, please share, rate, and review. See you next week.